Thank you, judges. Sandra, that's an 8. Paul, that's a 9.5, the highest mark of the day so far. And Tim? 9. And a 9. Well done. From a 5 to a 9. Excellent recovery. Okay, Michael, we're back over to you. 4 minutes, 30 seconds.
Okay.
Get the bell.
First of all, I want my 3 points back. This is Canada. We're allowed to use the F word on television. You are not the FCC, John.
Let me just say something. Not in my house, okay? That's all there is to it. I own the podium, just so you know. I own the podium.
TMN did a 4-letter word documentary on the F word.
Uh-huh. Yeah, what's your point?
Yeah, and you're running.
Yeah, the service that you didn't want
Brad
in Canada.
Perlman's
you wanted
movie.
some other service in Canada.
I'm just saying, you know, that...
Listen, you're never going to pass the urine test anyway, so
took my
let's
vote.
just... Stop debating with me.
The reason I'm working, in regulation and not corporate strategy is because I didn't pass the urine
I'm putting you on the clock right now.
Got to find a new cocktail, too.
I'm putting you on the clock right now.
Okay. So fundamentally, I really don't understand how Glenn gets 9 points for defending the Broadcasting Act policy when the thing we're debating here is the regulations that underlie the policy. Hopefully, everybody in this room still believes in Canada, particularly during Olympic week, right? I mean, we're there, like Glenn. Glenn, you're talking like you used to talk when you were president of the CAB.
So what's your point?
Oh, I don't have any points.
Hold on. You talk out there. Talk out there. And I'd knock it off with the ad hominem attacks. Your clock is running, by the way.
I know.
Just so you know.
I know. It's very simple. Government can't help us. It's not that regulation could or could not be a bad thing or that we have to abandon the existing regulations. Nobody's saying that. It's just that they don't matter as much. I think it really matters critically that, you know, we continue to have rules that deal with undue preference so that independent people do get access to the consolidated platforms that exist. But at the end of the day, the market is still the world. The market can be local, it can be Canadian, it can be regional, it can be French, it can be English, but ultimately we can reach out to audiences in the world and build a success story. And I have been very vocal on having a dialogue that includes well beyond the industry, but you know, the people that actually use the technology and the people in the IT sector that are creating the technology that we use. And so giving up my points, I'm going to spend the rest of my time inviting all the delegates here as chair of the Banff Television Festival to come to Banff and join us on a debate that I'm sure Tom is going to talk about earlier, because I might not care very much for regulation and government nannyism, but I care a lot about the country. And I'm not prepared to support a broadcasting policy that stands in the way of production of content to enrich people that spend all their money on Hollywood and, you know, talk about saving our local TV as they shut down channels. That, to me, just demonstrates that the system doesn't work and that the only hope for the people in the room here is on the new platforms, because there's no room left on the old platforms for you. In fact, broadcasting now wants to take away even what you've got and produce stuff in-house. Does anybody remember The Littlest Hobo? Is that what regulation is going to be about? I don't think so. So come on to Banff. Let's really have a discussion with the IT sector, with the new media people, with the NFB, in fact, led by Tom and the NFB. And let's really talk about what the future of this business is, because right now, government doesn't care, and I'm not talking about the CRTC, I'm talking about government writ large. They don't care. They're going to change the foreign ownership rules. I can say that word in Canada, but I can't in the US. And if we do change the foreign ownership rules, then late net television is going to become a lot more boring. And it isn't right now, and it's going to be very sad. And we'll have lost the Olympics in broadcasting. And, you know, I'm kind of done, aren't I?
I was going to say, you kind of run out of gas. You know what? I will still say this, many Olympic competitor, you know, just makes it across that line, but still wins. You know what I mean? That means you've given it your all. That's the best thing I can say about it anyway, but okay. Let's go to the judges. Oh my goodness, a 3.5 from Paul. Holy cow, that's pretty brutal. Paul, do you have anything to say about that, Mark? Or you just don't like Michael, or? Okay, all right. So you're doing it on the merits, you claim. Okay, Sandra. I didn't see yours. I'm sorry. Is that a 6? And Tim. 7 and a 7. Okay. Our final contestant, final round. Mr. Miller, the floor is yours. 4 minutes, 30 seconds, bell.
Thanks, John. I want to rebut a few points that have been made by Lawson and Michael that I think come to the heart of the Chicken Little view. Lawson said that it is inevitable that regulations will be obsolete. And then when you read his paper, they're very precise. That Canadian content quotas, Canadian exhibition quotas, and ultimately Canadian ownership will be obsolete. In fact, Lawson and his co-authors go so far as to say, because they're going to be obsolete, start phasing them out now so that they're gone entirely in 5 years. He doesn't say that about Canadian ownership. He does say about the other two things. Now let's think about that. If you look at the Canadian broadcasting system today, it has about 80% market share within the closed environment of the BDU environment. It generates about $8 or $9 billion in terms of economic activity, of about $1.5 billion that goes into Canadian production. Now, we may not all agree as to whether the priorities are right, and the chair has made it clear that there are some things that need to be fixed, including things that Michael has alluded to in terms of prime time, in terms of drama. But Michael's also said that government's not going to fix it. Do you really want to lose that $1.5 billion that's going into Canadian production? I don't think so. Because even if that market share shrinks, and it will. Broadcasters are at the height of their power, Canadian broadcasters. That market share, when we look at all screens, when all platforms, is going to diminish from that 80% to something less. Is it going to go to 70%? Is it going to go to 50%? When I see those online video shares that we saw yesterday, with the biggest Canadian provider being CTV at 3% and everything else being foreign owned, that scares me. That's not a future I want for video entertainment in Canada. So we have an open system. We're back to an open system. Michael was right in a couple of things. He's right that foreign ownership is something we really got to be concerned about. He's right that we're open to the world. And in fact, in a way, the way to look at the internet is it brings the world a little closer. And we have to find an opportunity in that. We have to use the basis that we have in broadcasting to be better at what we do. We have to be more efficient in regulation. We have to be better in terms of producing stuff that Canadians want to watch. We have to be better in terms of the relationships. And I totally agree with Michael that we've spent too much time battling each other, and I mean everyone. BDU broadcaster, producer broadcaster. It's time that we started working together because we have a system that has worked and will work and can work for the foreseeable future. Michael said the chair indicated that the Broadcasting Act was obsolete. That's not what I heard. I think, not to speak for the chair, but I think he used the term outmoded. Outmoded means imperfect. Outmoded means that some of the premises of spectrum scarcity are not quite right. But that doesn't mean that the Commission can't deal with the tools that they've been given. And in particular, that doesn't mean the Commission should be giving up on quotas or expenditure requirements, and it's very clear that the Commission has no intention of doing that, and they should be applauded for that. Government isn't going to solve this. Technology is both a threat and an opportunity, but not only do we, as producers and broadcasters, have to experiment and learn from our mistakes, so does the regulator, and we're lucky to have a regulator that's prepared to do that.
I need an erratum.